Hello and a warm welcome to yet another episode of the Mission Shunya podcast. Here as always, your host Girish Shivakumar. If you are a regular listener to the podcast, welcome home. Thanks for tuning into the podcast every other week. I hope you have given this show a rating and wrote a review on platforms like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google, Spotify, etc. So thanks for your feedback, and I hope you also spread the word. Let your friends and colleagues know about the show, and maybe even they'll like it as much as you do. But if this is the first time you're tuning into the Mission Shunya podcast, thanks for giving it a try. I sincerely hope you like the show. If air pollution is something that's of interest to you, I'm sure, irrespective of where you're staying at this point in time, you would have definitely heard about the Delhi air pollution in recent weeks. As expected, Delhi's air quality worsened in the last couple of weeks, especially after the Diwali season. And a regular listener would know that in the previous episode, we discussed about the Delhi air pollution in detail. So, for others who have just tuned into this episode, maybe you should also check the previous episode and you might find it useful because it was a pretty intense, comprehensive overview of why Delhi chokes during this month and what can be done about it. So, as promised, this episode is again going to be a special on air pollution. The last time around, we spoke about outdoor air quality and what are the factors that causes Delhi's poor air quality or air quality in cities in general. This time we will look at a different subject matter, the indoor air quality, and why does it also matter even more. So who's my guest and what is his profile?
Hi Girish, thank you so much for having me over.
That's Aayush Jha, founder of Clairco or the Clean Air Company based out of Bangalore in India.
I'm actually a law student. I was not a trained engineer at all. It's just that I've always had a knack of, opening things and understanding what they have inside them is probably what got me here.
So how did a lawyer who should actually be fighting for clean air in the courts get into running a company that aims at providing a technology solution?
So I'm from Bhilai, that's in central India. It's a fairly green place, a lot of trees around. So we never really had air pollution as a problem. And my father's also born there. And he had to move to Delhi. He got a promotion and he moved to Delhi in the corporate office. When he did in 2016, there was a massive smog hit weeks, actually, not just days in NCR. That was probably the first time media really took air pollution seriously. And unfortunately for us, my father was there. And we've been, as a family, we've been, very focused on, doing yoga and working out, etc. And my father continued that habit. And he went out to, do some workout in the morning, and he got really sick. In fact, he was admitted in the hospital for 4 days. So, we got worried. We spoke to the doctors, and they said it's because of bad air. He had very bad chest ache. He had wheezing. So it was just not a good situation to be in. What would a knee-jerk reaction be in this situation? We understand air pollution is a problem, and indoor air pollution can be 3 or 5x worse than outside. So let's obviously look at indoor air pollution, right? And what anyone would do is exactly what I did. I went ahead, bought a 15,000 rupee air purifier, and installed it in my home. It was a government quarter, a regular 3 BHK. And I didn't know that we would need like 5 air purifiers. I just bought one because that's what my common sense said. And still the problem persisted. He still had those chest problems and all the issues which I told you about. And it was really sad. And so I could see my dad struggling with this and slowly started hitting me and my mother as well. So I researched on this and I realized that an air purifier can only clean around 300 square feet. That's roughly one bedroom. What about a 1500 square feet home? You'll need probably 4 or 5 of them. Now, if you're talking about, say, a 15,000 rupee regular purifier, we're talking about putting in 70,000 rupees in just buying purifiers. And then again, you'll have to change the filters in the next 4 to 5 months. So this was a fairly daunting cost overall, right? For the average middle class guy, say 70,000 rupees is quite steep. And I realized, wow, this is a massive problem. So instead of going ahead and buying multiple purifiers, I thought let's reverse engineer this purifier. What is it? So I opened the purifier, and it literally is such low tech, Girish. It's so sad that it's for 15,000. It's actually just a filter strapped with a fan. That's what a air purifier is. That's it. A fan and a filter.
Interesting.
So how can it be worth 15,000? You get smartphones which are like supercomputers for 15,000, and this is such low tech. It's a fan and a filter worth 15,000. I started researching on it, and I realized that there have been people who've done some hacks on making air purifiers really cheap. So what they've done is they've strapped a regular exhaust fan with a filter, and they are retailing those purifiers for around 3,000 rupees. And I was like, wow, this is something, man. This is great. This is super. And I wondered, can the price of this sort of a purifier even go down? And we did a little bit of research, and I was in Delhi then, right? So in Delhi, all your bedrooms have air conditioners. I thought, can we do something about this? Can we have purification with an AC? So for purification to happen, you need the airflow to be in a restricted way. You can't purify air using a ceiling fan. It can be done in a closed box. So ACs were the obvious next choice. So that's where Clairco kind of the basic thought of Clairco came in. The other thing is, like I told you earlier, we bought one purifier, and I thought, wow, now this will solve all the problems, but it was not. And the purifier would have multiple lights: green, red, and yellow. It would so after 15 or 20 minutes of operation, it will come to green, and I was like, okay, now the air quality must be good. But then I realized that a lot of these air purifiers are actually just hardwired to say that the air quality is good after 15 20 minutes. If you switch it off and switch it on again in the next 2 minutes, it will again show red. So these were hardwired air purifiers. They're really sad. I mean, we're talking about a healthcare product showing back wrong data. That's when I realized that air quality monitoring is very important. And sadly, Girish, these air quality monitors are more expensive than a purifier. On an average, a monitor would cost you upwards of 15 to 20K. I'm talking about a decent air purifier, which gives you, air quality monitor, which gives you a decent reading. And I realized that, okay, so there are two things that, I'll work on. I'll make air quality measurable and visible to understand what the air quality really is. And we have to make it really affordable. The purification has to be very affordable. So it made sense to purify air using an air conditioner and start monitoring air quality in real time. So that's where we kind of started Clairco. The problem was very clear to me, and the problem was a very personal one as well.
That's an interesting story, and everyone probably around the world probably recognizes Delhi as being one of the smoke chambers in recent years. And 2015-16 was when the story really hit international headlines. You told the story and how Clairco began. So from 2015-16, how did you start developing the product, and how did you start setting up the business?
So Girish, there's never really a light bulb sort of a moment when you're starting up. I just knew that the problem is huge and it has a massive scale. Literally, millions of people are dying worldwide because of bad air quality. The number of patients, asthma patients, have risen. The sale of asthma medication has risen by 400% in the last 5 years. So those were staggering numbers. They were strong enough for me to take the plunge. I left my job and started researching on this. What can we do? How can we solve this problem? So like I said, I really didn't know what I'm going to do. I had an idea, I had a hunch that let's purify air using ACs, and we should always measure air quality. Otherwise, we don't really know. Otherwise, we're just doing guesswork, and we're doing guesswork with healthcare. That just didn't add up to me. I think it should always be measurable and should be affordable. So these were the basic guidelines, the basic idea that we have to work on. Strangely enough, I made an air quality monitor and I sold that to 3M, 100 of them. And 3M happens to be one of the biggest air filter manufacturer around the world.
Hmm.
And when I started talking to them, we realized that they have filters that can probably be installed in ACs that can clean air. So that was the first moment, although they're fairly expensive filters to be in the first place. But that kind of made sense. That things started adding up. Slowly, steadily, over a year, I realized that this is not a product that probably B2C customers would appreciate right away. To ensure that we get to a scale in India right now, it's important that we work with businesses only. A very big reason for that is air pollution is worse, or the air quality is worst in winters. And in winters, in our houses, in our homes, we don't use the ACs at all. So a solution will be basically useless when it's needed the most. So that kind of pushed me away from B2C. However, that is what I initially wanted to do. And that's when we had our first big pivot, and we started Clairco, what it is now. It's a B2B company. We help businesses ensure clean air in a very affordable and measurable way. So it's been a journey of around 18, 20 months.
That's a good pivot to move into. I mean, those are the kind of pivots you pick up and move towards when you set up business. So moving towards a B2B is a great move. So you mentioned about the filter that you developed and also the monitor. So how do you package this as a solution to offer to a customer? How do you go about it?
Sure. So even businesses, right? So let's look at the most. Let's look at five-star hotels, right? They'll do anything to ensure better customer experience. A lot of five-star hotels or four-star hotels in India do not have air purification. So initially, I started talking to a lot of these company managers, these five-star Le Méridien, Sheraton CEOs, to understand why are they not focusing on purification at all. And when I met a lot of these guys, a lot of facility managers, there was one answer that was coming back and back and back again and again. It is really expensive. It is really capital extensive. So, given a choice, so if an average five-star hotel would be roughly 1 million square feet, and to purify 1 million square feet, a company like say Sterling and Wilson or a Honeywell would charge them around say 12 cr. So that's massive money, even for a five-star hotel. 12 cr is fairly expensive, and I realized that it needs to be cheap. So, but we can't package it like that. So, how about something like which resembles a SaaS business where we're basically giving them clean air as a service. So, based on the size of the property, we charge them a monthly 1.5 rupee per square feet per month. So then effectively our business becomes much more easier for them to own. Our service becomes much more easier for them to own. So literally for a five-star hotel, we can do the same thing at around 12, 14, 15 lakh rupees a month. That makes it much, much more affordable and easier for them to own. Secondly, we are monitoring air quality throughout the building. When we're monitoring air quality, it gives us a couple of advantages over other customers. Number one, we guarantee clean air everywhere we install Girish. What I mean by that is if air quality is not maintained up to the standards, we do not charge for that month. So there's complete skin in the game. This is something which our competitors cannot deliver. Secondly, because we are measuring air quality in real time, and we are predominantly a big data company somewhere, we've been able to. So we also filed a patent on this, where we can predict exactly when the filter needs to be replaced. So our artificial intelligence machine can predict exactly when the filter needs to be replaced or when the filter needs to be cleaned. Girish, if we change the filter at the right time, air quality can be maintained in safe zones. So it's as simple as that. You change the filter when required. Normally, what happens is, even if you buy an air purifier, the OEM will tell you to change the filter every 6 months or every 12 months.
Correct.
So, what if you are living in Delhi or you're living in some place which is really, really good air quality and versus a place which is really, really bad air quality? Would you still change the filters in 6 months or 12 months? That doesn't add up. What if someone's using an air purifier throughout the day, or someone's using the air purifier half of the time? The filter won't get clogged in fast enough. So we realized that this needs to be data driven. So this is what we've been working on non-stop to ensure with the power of data, we can guarantee clean air. That comes from the patent I explained.
So Ayush, if I understood clearly, so when suppose you approach a commercial space, you look into their square feet and the area that you need to cover, then you probably put in filters in their air conditioners, and then you also put in the devices that monitor the air quality, and then you guarantee them saying that the air quality indoors will be a certain range compared to the outdoor, and you charge them only if you meet the performance requirement. Am I right?
100% right. Absolutely.
So, how does this work? Suppose, in terms of the numbers, can you give us some numbers in terms of the air quality that you typically see in a city like Bangalore or Delhi between the outdoor and indoor air quality, and how does it typically tend to change?
Air quality totally depends on the weather we are in. When it's winters, the air is cold and is heavy. When the air is heavy, the particulate matter comes down. It's basically heavy because of the particulate matter. And that's why we have a lot of air pollution, or the PM 2.5 or PM 10 increases in winters. On the other hand, when it's monsoon season, the rains wash off particulate matter. So the air quality is relatively always way better in the rainy season, in the monsoons, compared to any other season. So having said that, when we guarantee clean air, it cannot be unrelated to outdoor air quality. For example, if outdoor PM 2.5 is say 900, it gets difficult to maintain it under 25, which is our regular promise. This is because outdoor air quality and indoor air quality are related to a certain level. So there are fresh air systems in every central AC, which pull in outdoor air to account for the right amount of oxygen and CO2 inside. Because we're pulling outside air, we have to ensure that we're purifying air at that level as well, and again with a regular AC purification system. But then sometimes when air quality is really bad outside, we have to increase that PM 2.5 level, which we promised has to be under 25 to roughly 60. But we've not gone beyond that ever.
So, for listeners who are not probably familiar with the jargon, would you mind explaining like 25 and 60? What are the units?
Sure. So these are numbers which are prescribed by World Health Organization as clean air, and even the CPCB, that's Central Pollution Control Board, has certain numbers which they put in different categories, showing which is a good air quality, which is bad. When PM 2.5, when I say PM 2.5, that means particulate matter, which is smaller than 2.5 micron. Particulate matter is not a gaseous pollutant. Particulate matter is actually solid particles which are so small that they're suspended in the air, which we can't see. They're smaller than micron 2.5. So if PM 2.5 is less than 25, the air quality is considered to be really good. When it's under 60, it's considered to be moderate. That's what I was referring to. We ensure that the air quality is at least in moderate, no matter what.
I mean, monitoring air quality and ensuring the businesses inside get a better air quality is one part of your business. What are the other aspects that you offer in terms of the other sustainability aspects for a commercial space?
So we're working on a concept called net zero. Net zero basically means whatever Clairco charges a customer, we help them save the same money by helping them with energy efficiency. We might know, Girish, that in a big space, in a central air conditioned cool space, the main drainage of power comes from HVAC systems. So ACs account for around 80-85% of energy consumption of a big building. That's a massive number. So even if we bring a small delta, a small change to energy consumption of central ACs, it brings in a fairly big amount of energy consumption saving overall. So we're moving towards net zero. That net zero concept basically means if we charge a customer 1.5 rupee per square feet per month, we'll also help them save on energy of the same amount. How we do that is very simple. If you have a clogged filter, the air will not be able to pass through the air conditioner properly. The AC will have to put in a lot more effort to push the same volume of air across the building. But if the air filters are cleaned and changed at the right time, and the filters never get clogged, it provides for much better energy saving. We're also working on other technologies where we'll be able to displace the filter completely based on the air quality. We filed patents for that as well. So probably March or April is when we'll have this concept absolutely ready. So it will become a no-brainer for the end consumer not to have Clairco in their indoor spaces. It will effectively be free for them.
This is very interesting, Ayush. It's an interesting idea and it's an interesting business value proposition that you're bringing into the table. Now, looking at the bigger picture, I mean, mega cities, say Shanghai, Beijing, and most cities in China, and even Delhi. I mean, the bigger concern for everyone is to have ensure like there is better air quality in outside environment as well. So, looking at the business for air purifiers, how do you see this evolving, changing in the next few years? Where would you see an increased uptake? Do you think governments will probably put in air purifying towers, or will they encourage people to go for residential air purifiers, or how do you see this entire thing shaping up?
I'd love to answer that, Girish. However, I'd like to state one point that outdoor air quality and indoor air quality can be very, very different. They are related, definitely, but they can be still very, very different. There's a possibility that outdoor air quality is fairly good, but indoor air quality can be bad. This can happen due to multiple reasons. It could be happening because someone is vacuuming the carpets, or someone is cooking indoors, or someone is just lit a cigarette or an agarbatti. So indoor air quality can really dip immediately. It's also been noted that indoor air quality is actually much worse than outside on multiple times in multiple situations. Having said that, outdoor air quality, which everyone talks about and which really needs to be solved, is a very difficult problem to be solved. So, for example, in Beijing, the Chinese government have put in a couple of air purifier towers that clean air. They claim that around 2 kilometers of surrounding areas have cleaner air because of these air purifier towers. They are massive structures. I am not very sure about how scalable they are, or if they make sense financially, or if they make sense with just the performance in real life. The Indian government and the especially Delhi government has been working on this tirelessly, I believe. Not sure about the entire central governments and what their prerogatives on this have been, because this year again the crops have been burning. The governments have not really stopped farmers or discouraged them from burning crops at all. So having said that, that outdoor air quality is a massive problem, and it will continue to grow for the next decade. That's what I feel. Because outdoor air quality is so bad, people have started recognizing air quality as an issue, and they started buying air purifiers. But it's still at a very nascent stage. Air purification market is at the same maturity of what water purification market was probably a decade back. So a decade back, almost half of the homes started looking at buying water purifiers, or they started researching on it. A lot of families now, middle class, upper middle class, have started investing, or at least start talking about air purifiers now. So I think in the next 5 years, there'll be a massive growth in indoor air purifier purchases overall.
Ayush, what are your plans, say, in the next few years? Where do you see Clairco being in the market, and what position do you foresee yourself and the company in this market? I know it's certainly evolving, but where do you see yourself being positioned?
So Clairco is definitely will be one of the biggest air purification companies on B2B side in India. There's a possibility we might overtake bigger players like Honeywell and Sterling and Wilson as we go ahead. But we are definitely also eyeing going to Middle East and Southeast Asia. These are cities which have higher rental, have higher paying capabilities than Indian markets, and they focus on air pollution also. With our affordable business model and the ease of purchasing this service, it would make sense for us to be there. So Clairco will just not be an Indian company working for India and in India, but will be an international company which will be there in the Middle East and Southeast Asia in the next 3 years.
So that would be a massive leap from the operations that you are currently in. How many cities in India are you currently operating in?
So we are in 4 cities in India and managing around 1.5 million square feet. In the next 3 years, we will be shy of 200 million square feet.
Ayush, this has been a phenomenal journey that you've undertaken, and it's an interesting market and interesting solution that you're bringing into the table. And good luck with your venture and happy to share more success stories from your companies in the podcast soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me over. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
So with that, we come to an end of yet another episode on the Mission Shunya podcast. But we can always continue the discussion online. You can follow Mission Shunya on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go by the handle @Mission Shunya. You can also drop me an email, missionshunya@gmail.com. So just a reminder, 2 weeks from now, you will have yet another episode on the podcast platform. To make sure you get notified when it's released, subscribe to the podcast on any platform that you're listening to it on. The podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcast, Gaana, JioSaavn, Hubhopper, and many more. I have a great lineup of speakers and topics to be discussed in the coming few weeks. And if you have any topic suggestion or guest recommendations, you can always reach out to me on the webpage missionshunya.com, or you can also send me an email as I mentioned earlier. So I'll make sure I cover that. And thanks to Kartika Nair, a regular listener of the podcast, who actually recommended that I cover topic of air pollution in this Diwali season. So thanks again, Kartika, for your recommendation. I hope this podcast series, the 2 podcast series, was really helpful. So with that, signing off, this is Mission Shunya towards a zero carbon economy.